I'm Abigail, and I'm going to be going over the Med IoT cycle. So, based off of this image, we see the whole Med IoT cycle, and I'm basically going to be going over the overall cycle and what those devices are and how it kind of looks like in the healthcare field. So, Med IoT, or the Medical Internet of Things, is a collection of medical devices and applications. Um, these devices usually collect healthcare metrics such as blood pressure, temperature, heart rate, etc. From what I've seen, most of these devices are remote, but they can also be used in the hospital or in the home. I'll go through some examples at the end. So, IoT just refers to Internet of Things, and what that means is devices that communicate over a certain network. They gather information using sensors and direct it to different areas of the network without or with limited human interaction. Normally, this would be like location tracking on smartphones or Alexa controlling all the smart devices within your home. This kind of helps me understand how these devices work with each other or the network in general before adding the medical aspect to it. So, the type of IoT technology that allows medical devices to communicate autonomously over a network is Med IoT. Any patient data obtained is transmitted to healthcare providers with limited or no direction from the patient or the healthcare provider. This usually allows around the clock health monitoring, especially for patients with chronic conditions. This can be vital and essential. It can also provide doctors with information about the patient's living and how it's affecting their health. It gives more data, which can increase accuracy. For example, being able to collect blood pressure over 2 weeks rather than having you go in on one day and give your blood pressure to the doctor can increase that amount of data, therefore increasing accuracy. Of course, with this technology, just like any other, there's going to be some challenges that come with it. There can be high costs associated with the initial implementation of the Med IoT devices, and you don't always see the return on investment right away. The data information ownership is not always clear. For example, the patient, the software provider, and the healthcare professional can interact with that data at any point, so the lines are kind of blurred as far as who owns the rights to that data. From what I've seen, there's also an ongoing effort to increase the user experience and accessibility, because with the medical devices and the software or applications, it's not always easy to use, which can interfere with data collection as well as overwhelm the patient. Some examples of Med IoT devices are wearable devices. So we have customer grade or medical grade. Customer grade would be, for instance, a smartwatch can track your heart rate or how many calories you're burning or how you're sleeping at night. But medical grade would be, for instance, something that you could monitor your glucose levels, a device that monitors your glucose levels and would keep a record of that data and notify a healthcare professional if something goes wrong. There are also RPM devices that measure a patient's conditions when they're home, or even in a hospital, you have sensors on the bed that measure the patient's vitals. And hospitals also use Med IoT devices for asset management or inventory. So just to give a clearer example of this, I also found this image, which kind of simplified the original image for me. We just have 3 steps, but it's still that closed loop cycle where you have collect data, transfer data, analyze data, and take action. So it's basically just a more simplified version of understanding that first cycle. So just to keep with that same example of, let's say, collecting glucose data, you could have a continuous glucose monitoring, or CPM, where it estimates glucose levels based off of the patient's and wirelessly sends that information to a program or an insulin pump. So for instance, for the collect data, we could have that glucose sensor right here. That would be that step would be collecting data. And then it would send that information to the program, which would calculate how much insulin your body needs and would take action. So the first step would be sending it to the software or the application to calculate. levels. I'll just put levels. And then after that, based off of the calculation, it's estimating how much insulin your body needs. It would send it to the insulin pump and administer a specified amount of insulin. And then after your body has been administered that insulin, it'll actually come back here, and obviously your glucose levels are going to change, and the glucose sensor is going to pick up and it's going to, level it out or send that back to the software and say, okay, we actually don't need any more insulin. And it'll kind of all level out. So still we see that closed loop cycle here. And that's just one example. I've also looked into neuromodulation applied to migraines or other issues, and there's just so many more examples. So it's definitely an amazing opportunity, and it's going to be the future of so many more devices.